So hi, everyone. So glad you could make it to join us again. We've got a fabulous panel of alumni to join us. It's been really, it feels a little bit like a reunion. I'm really enjoying getting to see some familiar faces. So we've got, let's see, we've got about 20 people in the room. So that's pretty good. We'll probably have a couple more people stop by. And as I mentioned, Chris Tisch will stop by as well in a little bit. I'm going to start off by just asking each of our alumni panel to just introduce yourselves, maybe take 2 or 3 minutes. And if you wouldn't mind telling us, just covering these few things. What was the degree that you earned while you were here in Meskov, or degrees, because I know at least one of you has more than one degree. What you were researching while you're here, what was your thesis or your dissertation topic, what you're doing today, and maybe a little bit about what that entailed. So I'm just going to run through my list as I've got you listed here, and I'll ask Mallory to unmute and go first.
Sure. Hi, everyone. And hey, Chris. I see you. Okay.
You guys. Yes.
I'm Mallory Fierro, and welcome. I think this is a very exciting time and a very weird time, I'm sure, but I think it's great that we're able to meet here. So my introduction, my degree that I received at Meskov was a PhD in biostatistics. The topic of my dissertation is in missing data in cluster randomized trials, which might sound very boring to most of you. But it's, anyway, so I mostly focus on clinical trials and basically what happens if, a patient wants to, take a survey during the clinical trial, and maybe what if they miss the survey. So basically analyses that deal with missing data. My current position is I am a statistical team leader in the Office of Biostatistics at the FDA. So I work for the Food and Drug Administration here in Maryland, and I support the Office of Oncologic Diseases. So I support oncology trials, cancer trials, and I'm in the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. So I'm only focused on drugs for cancer. And I focus on like breast cancer. I focus on genitourinary cancer. So like, for example, like bladder cancer, kidney cancer, and then also prostate cancer and gynecologic cancer. So I think it's very interesting. And then lastly, the general things that I do are I'm involved in clinical trials that support drugs for marketing purposes that need to be approved at the FDA. So I'm involved basically from the beginning of the trial when they need to plan it. They need to pre-specify, what types of analyses they want to do, what type of trial they want to use to look at a drug, and then once the clinical trial is complete, I work very closely with oncologists, the medical doctors, basically to help them interpret the data from the clinical trials, and then we make decisions on whether or not we should be approving drugs for the American public. So I think it's a very interesting place to be.
Great, thank you very much. Chris, did you want to jump in and say anything before we keep going with introductions?
I think you're muted, Chris.
Why can't I learn it? Okay. No, I'm quickly writing everybody's current positions down because I know once you become an alum, you change positions and agencies, etc. Although I think you were in the FDA when you left, right, Mallory? And
yeah,
you still,
right.
It's fabulous. So great to see you guys. Anyway, go ahead, Michael.
Thanks, Chris. Marvin, would you like to go next?
Sure. So at MESCOF, I received a PhD in epidemiology. I did a multidisciplinary minor in spatial, kind of like spatial statistics is what I did. And I was really at the time really focused on using GIS methods, using remote sensing to kind of inform the work that I was doing. I was working in cancer epidemiology. I'm still largely in that space, but I've kind of expanded since then. But so there, and the title of my dissertation topic was spatially derived risk factors for cutaneous melanoma. So I did like a bunch of remote sensing. I used NASA satellite data to kind of remotely sense UV. Then I looked at arsenic in private wells and in soil across different areas. And after receiving my PhD at MESCOF, I then joined Washington University in St. Louis on a T32 grant. And there so I did a postdoc there, and the T32 grant was in cancer prevention and control. And so even before I got to MESCOF, I was doing a lot of work in molecular epidemiology as well. And so I actually probably have spanned a kind of, I guess, a wide range, one looking at spatial epidemiology and then transferring more so looking into molecular epidemiology. But there I focused primarily on prostate cancer. So I was really interested and have been for a long time on inflammation and prostate cancer and looking at infectious causes of certain cancers. And prostate cancer has a kind of like an emerging hypothesis with that. And so that kind of has guided my work for a while. And then in the fall of 2019, although it seems like it's been so much longer than that, I transitioned to Kaiser Permanente Division of Research as a staff scientist. I'm on a K-12 grant. It's a career development award here. And there, I kind of am continuing some of my prostate cancer work, but I'm expanding more so into prostate diseases in general. So I've done some work in prostatitis, benign prostatic hyperplasia, urinary retention. And so a lot of the general urology topics, both in looking at etiology and also outcomes. And I really like the clinical setting. So I've kind of segued a little bit more into clinical epidemiology. I'm doing a lot of machine learning approaches for predictive analytics. And so so I guess that kind of goes to what I'm currently doing now.
Great. Thank you very much. Libby, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. Hey folks, my name is Libby Salerno Valdez, and I am an alum of the MPH program and also the PhD program in health behavior and health promotion. Interestingly enough, I actually started my doctoral program in the Doctor of Public Health program, the DRPH program, and ultimately with a lot of mentorship decided to switch to the PhD because I was funded through NIH to do my dissertation. And so I technically got most of my training in the DRPH setting. So I like to think of myself as doubly trained. And I focused pretty heavily in community-based participatory research and substance use research. And so my dissertation was, I did a youth participatory action research project on the US-Mexico border, where I partnered with a local youth health coalition to examine substance use in their community from the perspective of the youth involved. And I am now at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and I'm a postdoctoral scholar here. I'm going to be starting my second year. And I continue to do my work in community-based participatory research. I'm kind of in two camps right now. I just got funded for a grant through the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. And it's a 4-year grant, and we are looking at structural racism as and other systems of oppression as root causes of adolescent sexual and reproductive health outcomes. So we're going to be partnering with community members and youth folks to examine how they perceive the world around them and forms of oppression to really contribute to like teen pregnancy rates and STI rates and so on and so forth. And then I'm also on just finished applying for a K-99 ROO, the kangaroo grant. And I should be finding out pretty soon if it got scored. And that will be using youth participatory action research, but I would get training in GIS. So use GIS and mapping as a form of participatory research. So teaching youth how to use GIS to look at the world around them and how that increases their risk, and how spatial risk contributes to substance use outcomes in youth. So I'm also right now developing a course on community-based participatory research to achieve health equity. And so that I'll be starting on Zoom on Tuesday. And I'm really interested to see how it goes, but I'm pretty excited. So you can totally see a common theme in the kind of work that I'm doing.
Thank you so much. Danny, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. Daniel, or Danny Troop. I received my MS at MesCoff. My thesis was focused around assessing novel disinfection technologies in regards to airborne transmission of hospital-acquired infections. A lot of our research with the Environmental Health Science Department was, and our laboratory was focused on acquiring data for risk-based exposure models. And I was for 2 years in the PhD program at MesCoff as well. However, due to some funding, let's see, can I politely put this, with difficulties in securing funding and not knowing, or let's say, risks of, or not knowing exactly where my research was going to, where the direction it was heading, and thankfully with a job opportunity, I decided to take initially a leave of absence from the PhD program, but that job opportunity is now turned into a great position that I currently have with Stanford Children's Hospital in Palo Alto, where I am the manager of building infrastructure and safety. And currently, so with that role, my job is really around regulatory compliance through Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So as you know, hospitals are highly regulated entities from local, state, and federal agencies. So I'm kind of like our point person for regulatory surveyors who frequently like to round on our hospitals. In addition to that, a lot of my job focuses on inspection, testing, and maintenance of critical equipment, whether it be electrical, plumbing utilities, or medical gas, and fire safety is a big one that big part of my job. So really, I'm almost like the documentation gatekeeper for all of our regulatory partners to review, making sure we're doing everything up to code as governed by CMS and all of the other agencies that they pull codes from. In addition to that, I do a lot of work with construction planning and design for our unit refreshes throughout the hospital, making sure all equipment is standardized, as well as safety, as safety is included in my title. I talked about critical equipment management. So I also, with our EHS folks on the call here. A lot of my, or I don't want to say a lot, but I do have a good focus of my job specifically with that deals with industrial hygiene. So we do monitoring for waste anesthetic gases. I manage our Legionella water management plan. With COVID right now, the last 5 months of my life have been dedicated to critical air pressures and maintaining our air pressure requirements, or let's say guidelines. Right now I'm working with the adult side on the Stanford Hospital and drafting a close to 60-page white paper on building ventilation guidelines during COVID-19 because there are no regulatory requirements right now for air pressures within healthcare, specifically the outpatient setting. So we're really looking to shore up a lot of gaps within our understanding of building ventilation right now during a pandemic when we don't really have regulatory standards to fall back on, and trying to inform others within our industry of best practices. And with that, that's my introduction.
Thank you, Daniel. You got your work cut out for you. And last but not least at all, Carmella.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carmella Khan, and I got my MPH degree at MESCOF, as well as I completed the DRPH program in maternal and child health, and that was just back in 2018. So I currently work at Diné College, which is located on the Navajo Nation. So I am based in Shiprock, New Mexico. I live on the Navajo Nation. When I was at finishing the doctoral program, I focused, my project was on, or my dissertation was on food systems. I partnered with the Tucson Indian Center and did community-based participatory research with the Tucson Indian Center and community members. And we together investigated the Tucson food systems. And the purpose or goal of the project was to help American Indians understand the urban American Indian food system, because it is definitely multi-layered compared to what our traditional food systems had been. And I wanted to help community members understand the broader picture and perspective of what food systems are and how social determinants of health greatly influence our food choices, but making sure it's something that was relatable to community members. So I worked with an advisory board, and they were really amazing. They helped me develop curriculum to use that for the Indian Center so that they could teach community members about food systems and try to change it on a political level. So that was my goal, was to use digital stories, CBPR, and try to influence policy and get community members to be interested in changing their own food systems. So that was my dissertation. And once I finished and defended in 2018, I moved back to the Navajo Nation, and I was hired as a faculty member with the public health program at Diné College. We have a certificate program in public health, an associate's degree in public health, and a new bachelor's program. So for the Bachelor of Science program, it's very new. It's only been like four years now. And so my job when I got hired was to help develop the program, create curriculum, develop classes. And what's been amazing about that is that we develop our classes based on the Diné education philosophy. So following the Navajo Foundation, that's how we develop each of our classes. And I get to be as creative as I want, use Diné teachings, and incorporate a lot of examples about how this program can help students who live on the Navajo Nation and use their strengths to go forward in public health professions. So it's been really wonderful to teach classes such as, we have really unique classes like global indigenous health and indigenous research methods. And so we can really put a lot of our own worldview and perspective into the classes that we have and teach. And in addition to being an instructor, I teach about, on average, 3 classes each semester, sometimes 4. We have a very small program, so that's probably one of the challenges I face, but we have 3 full-time faculty actually, and about maybe 2 to 3 adjuncts who help us for an entire entire public health program. But it's been really fun. In addition to teaching, I also participate in grant writing and other projects. We have numerous projects at the college. We have a gardening project. We recently wrote a grant for missing and murdered Indigenous women. We have tried past partnerships we've done with like the Mayo Clinic, and so there's a lot of opportunities for being at a tribal college and being able to just take, you know, new ideas and go with it. And so one of the other things that I can mention is that I'm part of a current project called a Navajo Narch project. It's funded by the NIH. So they fund my salary, but I also have to participate in not only helping Diné College with their program, but we also do a dual credit program. So we do a lot of work with high schools. So I do some outreach in with the high schools. We also we have a summer program with high school students called Indigenous Summer Enhancement Program to get students interested in public health. And then we also have our own undergraduate program called the Summer Research Enhancement Program. And I've been actually working with the Summer Research Enhancement Program for like the past 7 summers. When I was a graduate student at MESCOF, I got hired by them each summer to work with undergraduates at Diné College. But I think what was amazing about this past summer is, just like everyone else, we had to put it online. So we did an entire summer program online for 10 weeks, and I was the co-director of that program. And we had a chance to let our students do research, individual and then group research on COVID-19 on the Navajo Nation. So as most of you may know, the Navajo Nation was greatly hit by COVID-19, and we're still impacted by it, but it was great to see the students take the lead in actually creating their own research out of what's happening and impacting the Navajo Nation. So hopefully I didn't talk too much, but I'm just excited about what I do, and I'm really excited to be on the panel today. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks everyone. It's so fascinating to hear all the things that you've been up to. So this is the part where we go to questions. So this is your time to ask our panel questions. If you want to unmute yourself and just ask, or if you are more comfortable putting something in the chat, you're welcome to do that. I've got a list of questions if everyone's feeling shy that I'll go to. But otherwise, what questions do you have for our terrific panel here?
Hi, thank you guys all for being here. My first question is just, did you all feel like you knew the job you wanted, or did you feel like you knew the work you wanted to do, and then you found the job down the road? Especially Carmella, I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts since I'm getting a DRPH as well.
Well, it's pretty interesting because, to be honest, I really didn't think I wanted to be an instructor or be a faculty member. My initial thing was to do research, and in fact, most of my cohort, they are mostly researchers and working in the community, mostly applying CBPR. But I think when this opportunity came, I think what was interesting was a lot of people are actively recruiting me. Like, they would actually reach out and actually email me, and they're like, hey, this position is open. We really, really need someone here and qualified. And so I had several opportunities open, but with this one, my main goal was to get back home. And being on the Navajo Nation, there actually aren't a lot of jobs, especially if you have a doctoral degree. So I was actually a little worried, but when they actively came up to me and were like, hey, we have a new bachelor program and we really need someone to develop it, I just jumped at the opportunity, and it was really funny because I had some teaching experience. I mean, through the doctoral program, you definitely have to, you know, be a TA or lead a class. So luckily I had that because I really was not like thinking I was going to become faculty. But once I applied for the job, they were like, what's your teaching experience? And I was like, oh, thank goodness I did like some of these experiences. So I applied that, and I really love developing curriculum. So it was a nice fit for me, but that's how it worked out for me. Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else want to comment on that? I mean, did you start off your program knowing what you wanted to do at the end, or how did that develop?
I think I had a pretty strong desire to do research when I first started, and I was a little bit confused as to kind of the direction that that would take once I started. So I think that's totally normal if you don't have, you know, all your ducks in a row in terms of what specific topics that you are looking for. But I think for me, what was really just a motivating factor was the fact that I wanted to expand my methods when I was there at MESCOF and get that kind of experience, because I knew that the job market, you know, especially for an epidemiologist, there were certain, you know, cutting edge methods that everyone kind of, all the blurbs for different academic jobs included those. And so I made sure to really kind of get that expertise while I was there at MESCOF. And so I think, and at MESCOF, as a doctoral student, you will have, you know, opportunities to TA and, you know, and teach while there. And I actually enjoyed that aspect of as well. But I think currently I'm not teaching. I have taught in my postdoc program, but now I'm actually in a 100% research position, and I'm kind of seeing how this is going so far, and I really like that.
Yeah, and just, you know, I think the question that was asked was if you knew the job before when you started, and I definitely didn't know what job I wanted to do. I probably didn't know what job I wanted basically until I accepted my position at FDA. And for me, I just knew, okay, I mean, you know, you like this general area that you're doing, you know, your PhD in or whatever your degree is in. And then I think once I was doing my dissertation and I realized, okay, now I know what my research interests in. I know I'm interested in like clinical trials. So that helps you to narrow down, you know, the job search. Because if I want to see in clinical trials, basically it's like, I mean, it's still, you know, academia, government, or pharmaceutical at that point. But then for me, it was mostly figuring out the interests. And then when I started applying to jobs and I was doing interviews, I just asked about, you know, what is your day-to-day like? What kinds of things do you do? And sometimes, you know, whatever their mission is of, you know, that job, or what, you know, the things that they do on a daily basis might like speak to you more. So for FDA, it was like, okay, there's like a public health impact. I know that if I come here, I will be able to help make decisions on these things. And I just felt like that spoke to me more so than the other jobs. So I think it was just exploring a little bit too.
In between getting my MPH and my doctorate, I decided to go to work, and I wanted to see what life was like in the field. And I realized really quickly that the kind of work that I could do with my MPH was not the kind of work I wanted to do. And that I really was interested in research more than I had ever expected. I thought I would be working in like a leadership capacity at a nonprofit, or like running programs or running evaluation. And as soon as I tasted research, especially research that I was directing, that was like my baby, I felt so much more dedicated to the idea of getting a job in academia. And so that's how I ended up where I am. I really enjoy teaching, and I actually I really enjoy that my job has both a teaching and a research component to it right now.
Oh, Libby, are you done? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to follow you, and also because I'm the only panel member that hasn't replied yet to this question, but it's perfect that, you know, all of us have different backgrounds, or especially me as the lone non-PhD student or alumni here. But so I had a very similar path with Libby in between, you know, taking that time away from my PhD program. I found out that working in the industry was what I wanted to do, and you know, research or continuing in research or in academia was something that I felt like would detract from my career goals, and I, you know, I wanted to work within the hospital within front lines with the providers, and that's exactly what I'm able to do now. But it's not. That was my. So to really answer the question, that was my. I knew that where I wanted to work. I don't know how I was going to get there. It took a job until I was able to secure the current position I'm in now to actually work within the hospital. But yeah, I think whatever you have your interest in, that's what you have to follow. Don't necessarily follow the job, follow your interest.
Thanks, everyone. So in the chat, there's some questions about grants and fellowships and such. So I'm just going to read what's there. How did you get educated on applying for fellowships and government grants? And then adding to that, have you secured external research funding opportunities such as NIH grants? And if so, can you share your experiences?
I can probably answer this one. I think that, so actually I probably had a pretty atypical experience when I went to MESCOF. Actually, I applied to MESCOF originally because I wanted to work with a specific researcher there, Leslie Dennis at the time. And I was really interested in the work that she was doing. And so it's almost as soon as I got there, she was actually working on a R01 study. It was a case control study for cutaneous melanoma. And she mentioned that, you know, we should, you know, write a supplement grant to her R01 so that I could, you know, fund a couple years for my doctoral studies. And so I think I got there in August, and I think that I applied with her for the supplement in maybe October. So that was kind of atypical, and it got funded. And so it funded actually 2 years of my my training while there at MESCOF. So that was great. And then afterwards, I think that a lot of the grants, especially for the fellowships, you'll find that they'll be very specific to maybe certain areas that you're interested in. So for example, I was interested in cancer. And so there's this, for epi folks, there's this service called Epi Monitor that lists lots of different fellowships and jobs, and that you can go on and you can see kind of what those are. And I knew that based on that, that there were certain like training fellowships for postdocs. Another source is NIH Reporter. So NIH has this website that basically lists all of the grants that PIs have. So you can, you know, kind of do it backwards and look at that and see, okay, this researcher is doing this, and they may have a training grant there for postdocs. So that's another one there. And so yeah, so I did a T32 there. And then the current K-12 that I'm on at Kaiser, I just heard about that through some of the networks that I was a part of in cancer and also in urology. And so that's kind of how I got onto this K-12, and I applied and that sort of thing. And since being here, I'm a co-I on a U01 grant. I'm a co-I on a small business grant, and also another grant from NCORP, actually looking at new onset diabetes and pancreatic cancer. So I think that you kind of, once you start applying to grants and seeing what opportunities are out there, You can, you know, hone in on your interests and figure out, okay, where the opportunities are. But it does take some searching. And I think MESCOF also had a class in grant writing that I think at the time was required for doctoral students. And it was just valuable just to, because I think a lot of this in the beginning, you know, the R's and the K's and, you know, small business grants, all of that, you kind of get lost in all of that. And so I think that the grant writing course really helps you to at least understand what these mechanisms are and what they may fund, and how you can position yourself. And another good resource, even right now, is to, you know, go onto the NIH website, and they have listed grants for each career stage. So even at your career stage of being, you know, a new master's or PhD student, there are different grants in which you're eligible right now to apply for. So I would take advantage of those opportunities as well, and working with your mentors that you have along the way.
Awesome. Anybody want to add to, you don't have to, but anybody want to add to that?
I want to second Marvin's recommendation for the grant writing course. I forget the number. I know it's a 6. There's a 6 in it. But if that's still available, I highly recommend it if it is not required for PhD doctoral students. But you work in a close group with several other PhD students across all disciplines throughout the health sciences graduate program, and so you learn a lot about other people's research, and you're able to brainstorm in those sessions as well, and in addition to learning how to formulate your specific idea into a full-fledged grant. So that's great recommendation.
I'll third that. I developed my dissertation that was funded by NIH through that class, which is it was 619, and I think now it's 620. And it was super formative. Also, like just the process of going through an NIH funding mechanism is so beneficial. Even if you don't get funded, even if you don't get scored, at least it's under your belt and you figured it out. Because if that's something that you're going to pursue moving into the future, it gives you so much know-how about how to go about grant writing, which becomes really important. And it just sets you up. There was something else I wanted to say, but the nice thing about that class is that you work with multiple faculty members, and it feels really hard because they rip you apart. Rather, they rip your grant apart over and over and over again, but it comes out much stronger. Your ideas are much stronger. And I'll say that class, we were the guinea pigs for it. But I can see how beneficial it was. And it's modeled after other like really high earning institutions, like highly funded institutions. And here at UMass, we're trying to get there. Like we're trying to develop this class. And so y'all are like ahead of the game, and it's stressful, but it's so worth it once you get there.
You know what's really great about that, Libby, is that you take from the program and then you get to help make new curriculum based on, and in that regard, you could sit there and say, this didn't work so well, but this was great. So, and putting together faculty at a new position, you know, you're really, you know, that's the mark of a true academic, is you're taking from one institution to the next. It's great.
Okay, there's another question in the chat. This is a great one, as they all have been. What one thing do you wish you knew going into the PhD program or the MS program? And is there anything that you would have done differently? What pearls of wisdom for the incoming class?
I just add that based on what I mentioned earlier, I had no idea I wanted to teach when I got out of the program. So I had a friend who's completing, or she actually just recently defended from the PhD program, and she took a lot of those teaching classes that they offer, and she shared with us some of her strategies, and I was just amazed. So I was like, yeah, if I ever had, I should have taken those classes if I had that chance. So you never know when you may teach down the road. So if there's any way to enhance your skills with that, it's very helpful. So that's all I wanted to add.
Michael, can I make an advertisement for that? There's a certificate, a graduate or college teaching certificate or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's what Carmella is talking about. And I will tell you that what I found very interesting about that is the faculty who went ahead and did those classes, they're always the ones that got nominated for teaching awards. So clearly it was effective, or it is effective.
I think one thing that I wish I knew when going into the PhD program, and this also relates to those, in Masters of Science that are having to do thesis work, is kind of how isolating that experience can be at times, because by design, the PhD and also the MS is you are, generating original research in something, meaning yes, you're going to have advisors and folks on your committees that can speak to various parts of your project, but you will find once you get to a certain point, you'll find that you can't go to there's not one person that you can go to that give you all the nuggets that you'll need for your dissertation and for your thesis. And so at some point you recognize, okay, I'm getting a lot of this input from various sources, but I think part of the process of the PhD is trying to take those different sources and coming up with and developing your own expertise in that area. And so that's something I guess I didn't think of originally. And I remember pretty early on in the process, I sat down with Dr. Robin Harris, and we were just kind of having a chat about my experience at that point. And she kind of gave me a bit of a nugget of wisdom that I kind of threw away for like 2 years until I got to the point where it was actually relevant for me. But she said basically that if you're in this PhD and you think that you're going to be able to take a class to learn everything that you need to learn, it doesn't work in that way. And she was saying that there's going to be different experiences that you'll have to take and draw that won't be defined from a class. And so I think that's, if there's something that, the big nugget that you would take from that is the fact that with every other degree program that you've probably been in, you have a cohort, you have folks that are taking the exact same classes as you, exactly, what the finish line looks like, the classes, that sort of thing, and everyone else is doing the same thing. And I think a doctoral degree is a bit unique in that respect, because while you do have, folks that may have entered the program with you and are doing, working on similar degrees, you may have very, differing experiences while at the university. You may be taking classes all over the place and getting expertise outside of class and at various conferences, at various workshops in the field. You may be doing research projects that may be in other states and in other countries and that sort of thing. And so I think that's something that I didn't know exactly going in, I think.
For me, something that I think I learned after that was very important for your PhD is just how crucial your dissertation advisor is. I think that you have to look at the person's research interest, but also just personality, because I think that you can work very well with certain people and not very well with other people, just depending on how your your personalities are. For me, I had a great experience with Melanie Bell. She was my dissertation advisor, and I liked the structure that I had. But, you know, I've definitely heard of, you know, kind of scary experiences where, you know, it might take you double the time of your PhD if for some reason, you know, it's just not working out with your advisor. So just, you know, early on, it would be good to, you know, just get to know the professors that are there, get to know their personalities, how they work, because I think that will be helpful for you as you work very closely with them during your PhD.
Great. Libby or Daniel, do you want to, time is like flown by and we've got to wrap things up in the next few minutes. So if you two would like to have like the last words of encouragement and insight on what you think these folks might benefit from, you can have them.
Sure. I would have to say some of the best advice that I received was don't say no to an opportunity. Do the work for free, because later it will manifest itself into either a skill set or maybe a job or maybe just really fantastic mentorship. But yeah, those things don't often have a price tag. And I did all kinds of things that I did not get paid for, and I really benefited from it. And there was like, you know, very much a mutual benefit from that experience. And my last thing is don't underestimate self-care. Like whatever that might mean for you, whether it's sleep or exercise or spending time with your friends or calling your mom or whatever it might be, but you will need to take breaks and take time, take a real vacation, even if it's like a day or 2 days, like step away from your computer, go outside, get a brain break, because your brain really needs time to recharge before you can go back to like all this really heavy thinking that makes you really tired.
Yeah, for me, Libby, it was binging Game of Thrones for a week instead of finishing my thesis. So I completely agree. To second Libby's sentiment, I do not say no to any opportunity. I think from Mark Verhoogstrait to, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting my professor's names. I'm so bad. Paloma Beamer, I think I was a part of, you know, a half a dozen projects before I finally found my project with my thesis. But do not say no to an opportunity. You will thank yourself in the long game for the experiences that you're able to get for yourself. And with that, I would also say utilize or leverage all of your classwork into how you can build your dissertation through your classwork. So I know there's advanced biostats, I think it's biostats C. There's an exposure modeling class, the grant writing class. Utilize your classwork in order to help build your thesis or your dissertation work.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks, it was so great seeing all of you. This group has started a shared document where they're sharing their contact information. I'm gonna send you an invite to add your contact information. If you don't mind sharing it, you can then add your contact information so that if they have questions, they can follow up with you. If that's too much to ask, then just ignore my invitation to join the list. But we're so appreciative of you joining us, and just thank you so much. There's still lots of great questions in the chat. We'll maybe spend a little bit of time with the wrap up that we do after these sessions to talk a little bit about that. But just wanted to thank you so much. And it was so great seeing all of you, and please stay in touch and stop by after pandemic and see us sometime.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
much.
I missed the passport code by chance.
Oh, you know what? No, but I don't know what it is. I forgot to look to see. I'll go find it and come back.
Okay, thanks.
So I have made Magdal the host so that when I log off, we don't end the meeting. Magdal, would you mind stopping the recording, please? If you go to the bottom and hit the record button and